information. I'm going to unpack some of the stuff that we do for AQHI on the ECCC side. It'll be less about, the health messaging that was well covered by NB Lung, Melanie, yesterday. So first of all, let me just see if I can flip my slides here. All right. So the Air Quality Health Index program was built on the data availability of the National Air Pollution Surveillance Program. It started as a pilot in 2004, and slowly all the communities were added to the roster, and I think the last province to buy in was Ontario. We have now about 134 stations. Now the air quality data is sent to the it used to be CMC before, now it's the CCMEP, which is the Canadian Center of Meteorological and Environmental Prediction, which is located in Dorval. So the data is sent on an hourly basis, and the rolling 3-hour average is calculated using the NO2, ozone, and PM 2.5. And as you know, the NO2 is weighted higher than the ozone, and the ozone is weighted higher than the PM 2.5 in that rolling 3-hour average. This calculation was designed and implemented by Dave Stevetal, which was using urban data from cities from 2008, so 10 years previous to 2008. So it's currently is still the best available technology and science that we have to calculate the AQHI. But as it was mentioned in one of the work groups yesterday, that it does need reviewing, it does need updating, and we are working on that with Health Canada and with CCMEP. But it's a long process to change something. So it's still valid and it's still used across Canada. So as you see, the stations are located in mostly urban areas, covering about 80% of the population, where 60% of that population is considered at risk. By 2024, we need to be able to provide AQHI to 90% of the population. And we'll be doing this by using our weather elements on the grid technology or processing, which will mean a air quality on the grid for us. So right now we're in the development stage of that air quality on the grid. We'll be consulting with our partners and our forecasters and trying to implement, sorry, that was my dog. She heard the fridge open. So we'll be implementing this hopefully by 2024, but it will be after much consultation and doing some schematics to see how we're going to achieve that. The web mapping is on the horizon. This may be implemented before the weather elements on the grid, kind of bridging towards a new product. The radar is now implemented, and if you go on the weather.gc.ca and you look at the radar map, if you click on the map, anywhere on the map, you'll get a value. And that's basically what we will be doing with the AQHI on the grid. So we'll have a layer for Quebec and a layer for the rest of Canada because Quebec uses InfoSmog. So to date, after our surveys, we have been able to determine that 1 in 3 Canadians say that they are very or somewhat familiar with the air quality information available for their community. And if we increase it to 90%, we hope that, and also update our technology and our processes, that this will increase with time. So the air quality program is implemented. It's really, the AQHI is just the tip of the iceberg. And this is like, the image that, just have an image of an iceberg and AQHI is on the top, and all these operations and development and research and clients and services are all underneath, working to provide that number on weather.ec.gc.ca, and also the forecasts. So all this work is going on sight unseen, basically, with different model development. So CCMEP does much of the development and research in the development of the the RAQ-DPS, that's a Regional Air Quality Deterministic Prediction System, and also with firework. GEMMAC is developed by the Science and Technology branch. We have the research that's also done by Applied Science. Morgan, for example, is part of that group with Lucy and Andrew Teakles. And we have the central region that does the applied science, as well as the western region. And the western region is the one that started with the small sensor program. And we're also developing a new ventilation index for BC and the rest of Canada. We have services that provide the forecasts and the observations, as well as the special air quality statements, advisories, and continue to do the outreach and provide data on the data mart. We're also updating with geomet layers that would be available to clients. And, you know, outputs and clients include all of our partners that contribute to this. We wouldn't be able to do it with our partners. And at the core are the provinces and territories that provide the data to calculate not only the AQHI, but the CAQS, and that feed into these models so that we can forecast and help improve our air quality gradually in Canada as a whole. So it's not just AQHI, there's the CAQS, and there's international agreements, there's firework. So all of these are integrated, and AQHI is one of the products that comes out of all these services and activities. Our governance is through the Health Board, and the Health Board has members from Health Canada and ECCC, MSC, where we present the work that we're going to do. We have the Innovation Committee, and we also have the AQHI Partners in Governance. And AQHI is internal to the Government of Canada, that involved Health Canada, ECCC, and NRC. So all this to give you a whole bunch of acronyms. And the Air Quality Forecast Program is at the core, and we do the policy and planning. Health and Air Quality Forecast Services is not only air quality, it's heat, cold, and UV as well. And we have technical folks on our team that help us to link all of these together, and everybody plays a part. So as I said, at the core are our partners, our NAPS partners from the provinces and territories, and also the AQS NAPS management program that's in Ottawa. They set the standards for the monitoring stations. The provinces and territories follow the quality assurance, quality control procedures that are established, and that have been working for over 50 years. So NAPS is 50 years old, and started with very basic technology, and today, you know, the technology has increased in cost and sophistication. So a NAPS monitoring station can cost about $100,000 at a minimum, depending on what instruments we include and where the station is located. So this data is used to do forecasts and pollutant inquiries. We coordinate with the partners when we have any kind of media that asks us for data or information. And we also issue the alert protocols and wildfire events with our partners. So all of this is coordinated with our operations and services. So the SPCs are located in each region, and they coordinate as well with our partners. So Tracy, for example, in the Atlantic, is very much involved with the SPC and with the partners. Whenever we have a gap in the data, she is sending an email right away asking why is the data stopped and when will it be reestablished? Because of real-time data, and you know, we have technology issues we just experienced today, and I'm sure we all do, with systems crashing. And so it's a constant conversation with all of our partners. The CCMAP helps us with the data, with the models, and establishing the flow of data with shared services, which is our IT department, to make sure that the data gets out to the weather office, and also the WeatherCan app, which I will go over in a few minutes. So we are the Health and Air Quality Forecast Services, and I'm sure you've met Melissa, there's Kara, Dan, Sean, and Kathleen, and also Mike Howe is our manager. I did a presentation with my colleague, Jacinthe Racine from CCMEP, and she produced this flow of how we use the models. I said that it's all integrated, it's used for many things. Um, and I really liked how she presented this, and I'm going to try to do it justice by presenting it to you today. So we have the models, GEMMAC or firework model, and we have the different outputs that we want from it. So for AQHI, which is a daily forecasting instrument, let's call it an instrument, we have the emissions that are input into the GEMMAC model. And this is constant. So we project the emissions, anthropogenic, biogenic, into GEMMAC and firework. Firework is just the emissions from wildfire smoke. And GEMMAC is all the other pollutants. So there's more than just ozone, PM, and NO2. We also have SO2. We've done outputs of VOCs. So there's different outputs that they can do. But the changing parameter with the daily forecasting is the meteorology. And then we do the post-processing. And there's the forecast that's issued every 6 hours. That's renewed every 6 hours. But it's projected every hour. This is the AQHI part. So that's the top part. I don't know if I can use my cursor here. So that's the top part. So the circles are the ones, or the ovals are the ones that change, but the squares don't change. In policy support, what changes are the emissions. So in policy support, and if you've seen the CAQS documentation, they provide different scenarios of continuous improvement. So and different scenarios of emissions into the future based on the different inputs. So for that reason, it's the emissions that change. And so they do sensitivity testing, basically, if you want to call it that, to develop the CAQS and see what would be the impact in 5, 10, 20, or 25 years into the future if we reduce the emissions of VOCs, for example. There's new VOC regulations that were implemented, and this impacts the CAQS values that will come out. So right now, the CAQS values are going to be renewed for the PM 2.5, but every cycle, there's a new pollutant that they're looking at to reduce the emissions. NO2 and SO2 were recently added, and I think jurisdictions were starting to report on it in 2020. So 2023, we should have some air zone values for NO2 and SO2. Ozone and PM 2.5 are the first two. The other thing with the model is right now the GEMMAC is 10-kilometer grid, but they're working on a 2.5-kilometer grid and even a 250-meter grid to support different regulations and environmental issues related to air quality and meteorology, to participate in field experiments. One recent one was Moose, which was an ozone project in Sarnia and Windsor. So they were doing high resolution modeling for that project. There should be a paper coming out soon about it. So they also do different versions of specific pollutants. So they're modeling benzene and pHs, greenhouse gases, and short-lived climate pollutants. So addressing the climate change and air quality profile as well. So this is for high resolution modeling. So that's all I'm going to say about modeling. I'm not a modeler, I'm not an expert in modeling, but it's one of our key tools that we use for not only AQHI, but maintaining air quality regulations and information for Canada. We also, I mentioned the regional science groups within MSC. They work closely with the science and technology branch and other partners to increase our innovative ways of calculating data. So one of them is the new satellite that will be launched at the end of this year. Applied Science and SNT are looking into a pilot to use the data flow from Tempo and existing methods to track the upcoming satellite missions. There'll be a better resolution and less latency in using the data for SPCs. So this will be a game changer, as I heard from many people when Tempo is launched. The data should become available in 2023. So if you have any questions about that, Lucy is your gal in Atlantic because she is participating in the working group. There's also different scenes that have been created for Nino using RGB um, combinations to help the forecasters to predict where the smoke is going from forest fire smoke plumes. Prognos is something that was developed by Atlantic to forecast bias or adjust the numerical prediction systems. And also the AQHI and AQI observations versus forecast verification is done on an annual basis and with high air quality events, and that's done by Central Region. And as I mentioned, the small sensor pilot was implemented by the West, but now has been adopted by the Central and Atlantic regions, and we're distributing sensors across Canada. So speaking of sensors, since 2021, I believe, is when the sensors really started better distribution through Canada. We have the AQ map. If you go to your browser and you search for AQ map UNBC, you will have the map that's available through UNBC in partnership with MSC. And the AQ map has much more detail than the purple air map. I know a lot of people use a purple air map, which is great because you see the international coverage of purple air. But as was described by Melanie yesterday, we have a correction factor for the data because the purple airs on their own, the raw data is much higher than the monitoring data that we get from NAPS. So to regulate that, and EPA has done the same, we use a correction factor. The AQ map also has the firework model. It has the forest fire rating for the risk of forest fires and the hotspots, as well as other information on the different models that have been used. No, sorry, not the different models, but the different networks that are used. So the data is crowdsourced. We have about, there's about 609, I'm going to be exact here, that's the number that I was given. And 70% of those numbers are crowdsourced. 30% is from MSC with their partners. So we're not only using MSC sensors, we're using them all because Purple Air is open by default. So you can go to Purple Air and download the data. And this is real-time data of PM 2.5 only. So we're testing these sensors across Canada to see if we can get better coverage. We're including the Indigenous communities to try to reach those northern and remote areas that are more prone to smoke and have less support for the AQHI, because I showed that the AQHI is limited around the highly urbanized, border of Canada and up into Alberta and BC. But there's still valleys that would require some monitoring, and this is how we're planning to try to cover that. Now, other sensors are also being tested, but the gas sensors are not as efficient as the PM 2.5. So that's why we're starting with the PM 2.5. And this will help us with coverage. So the maps on the side here are from August 2021, and it's the month's 90th percentile of PM 2.5 by forecast area. So the first map up on top is only using the NAPS monitors. And as expected, it's limited along the populated areas and not so much in Northern Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and even the territories. Now, with the sensors, 690, I said 609, I think earlier, we're able to get more coverage. So if you look at more of the West has better coverage right now because that's where they started. Alberta is also very involved in distributing sensors, the province of Alberta. So because they have more fires in the West, that's why there's basically more sensors, because they want more information for those forecast areas. You'll notice that within Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC, that we have a better spatial coverage, especially for Saskatchewan, because there's limited stations in Saskatchewan, not many in the north, and it spills over into Manitoba. We're currently looking for places in Manitoba, Ontario, and of course, of the project in New Brunswick with NB Lung. This is a citizen science test as well. So we want to see how well the citizen scientists participate There's a Facebook group, and actually, if you go to Facebook and look for purple air, there's other user groups that have been established internationally. So it's kind of cool to see other people put PM 2.5 sensors. So there's been decades of fire seasons. The previous year, as you saw with the air quality, it was really prevalent for most of the provinces. As you see this map here with PM 2.5 forest fire emissions for 2021. This is an average of the season, so from May to August. That's why the values are low, so we're not getting the peaks. But this is the difference between the RAQ DPS and firework. So these are only the PM 2.5 forest emissions. And you can see the bullseye rate in Manitoba, Ontario, and that's where we have the least amount of monitoring. So, there's certain areas that have good monitoring, others don't. But with the model and satellite images, we can determine where the smoke is. But the PM 2.5 sensors are very valuable because we can get some on the ground measurements. So we basically almost doubled the million hectares per year that are burned. So usually the average is 2.5. Last year it was 4.1. So almost a double. It's pretty significant. We had special air quality statements all season, and I have a video to show you afterwards. But in the Canada's Changing Climate Report, and we've all heard it today, and we've heard it in other presentations, we know that in a warmer climate, extreme hot temperatures will become more frequent and more intense. And there's also increased drought and wildfire risk. So it's multi-season. It's not just 1 year where you go, oh, there hasn't been that much rain this year, but it's been multi-seasons. And you see it in water levels in the Great Lakes. You see it in forested areas where the soil is dry. So last year with the extreme heat combined with multi-season droughts, we had a record year. And we knew it would happen. It was just a matter of when. And so last year, there was over 700 deaths in BC due to heat extremes. There's also a study by Health Canada by CMATS that used the data up to 2018, I believe, or 17, and estimated that the cost of wildfire smoke health impacts is between 5 and 21 billion. So we can imagine that in last year, those costs increased significantly combined with the heat events. So this is a concern for ECC and Canadians as a whole. So I want to say thanks to Abigail McLean, who's our co-op student right now. She gathered all the special air quality statements for heat and for air quality, the heat warnings and the special air quality statements, I should say. Sorry, Melissa. And Melissa, who's McDonald, who's our heat lead, does a lot of work with air quality, obviously, because she used to be acting, and she helped Dave Henderson with all those years of establishing the AQHI. So she still has a handle on the air quality, and we ask all the forecasters to track the special air quality statements and the heat warnings and input them into Ecolab. And so we export that now, and we've been tracking since probably about 2015, 16. And Abby put this video together, and I will start it because it's about 2 minutes long. Hopefully it's working, yes. So you'll see how the legend changes with each day. So this is from end of June to end of August, how the special air, the alerts were nationwide. It wasn't limited to just BC and Alberta and Saskatchewan. It moved across Canada. When the heat dome ended, that's when the wildfires started and the smoke started to impact all of Canada. So this is preliminary work. We're going to be diving down and looking at how we can use this data in other ways. The Alberta has done some visualizations that will be available soon, and looking at historical warnings that have been issued. So we're now at July 20th. We had special air quality statements and heat warnings the whole summer. There wasn't a province that didn't have one at one time. We also had some events with the heat and smoke combined, where we had to adjust the messaging for the special air quality statements. And we will have more adjustments for this summer, and we're currently reviewing the special air quality statements that we use from Health Canada. So this is August. This is when Nova Scotia and New Brunswick were impacted with the smoke. We all remember the hazy skies and the sun that was causing a lot of attention, and especially when it hit Toronto, Twitter went crazy looking at the sun and posting pictures of that sun. So we all experienced it last summer, and we're working at being more prepared, having better messaging, and possibly two-tier alerting for the heat warnings. This is in development. Don't quote me on that because Melissa is still working on it. We want to have some better messaging for the special air quality statements when we have 10 plus events for AQHI and also multi-day events. So this is work that's ongoing. So thanks, Abby. She finished it Monday during the day, and I appreciate your work. And I think one of your profs was presenting yesterday. So that's why I wanted to give a shout out to her. Okay. All right. So in development, so I'm sure you all have the WeatherCan app on your phones. If you don't, you should download it, because in early this spring, you will be able to set notifications for the AQHI. The AQHI notifications it's a new development with WeatherCan. It's one of the pilots that we're testing with the WeatherCan that could be implemented for other parameters, such as heat or precipitation or wind or marine. So this is a big move for the WeatherCan. And I'm sure that once we have it, other apps will start to implement it. So what you can do is you go into the notifications part where you have the 3 lines. It's not available yet, but we'll have media coverage on it as soon as it's available in April. But you will have, instead of just having a link to the website when you go to the AQHI line in the Now page, you will get an AQHI page that will pop up. And in this AQHI page, you'll have the observation. You will also see the alerts up on the top if there's an alert at that time. You'll have a call to action and also the forecast, the 4-period forecasts. If there's an exception of smoke, that will also show up on in the comments here, and in the numbers you'll have an asterisk. So this is a new development. We're really happy. I know Dan Juvainville has been dreaming about it and writing code as he's sleeping. And the team is very excited. We're very excited. Health Canada is as well, because the AQHI app that was developed through Alberta will be decommissioned. And we're looking forward to having this implemented in the WeatherCan app. So this is one of the ways that we want to improve our services to Canadians. And the other way is by increasing our social media outreach. And we hired a company to do an analysis and develop a strategy with us. And what came out is that Twitter is the #1 method of communicating air quality, heat, cold, and UV to the public. Now, I know Twitter is more of a business kind of platform. It's a different demographic than Instagram or YouTube. But those platforms can also be used. ECCC has YouTube and Facebook accounts. So we are going to be augmenting our social media presence. We're proposing having our own Twitter account. However, that's going to take a little bit of time before senior management goes through all the hoops and has communications agree with it. But for now, we will enhance the social media presence using the ECC weather accounts that are available across the country, and also our Environment CA account. And last summer when we implemented some through the Environment CA, it increased the outreach by having a link to our website. So even the website had increased visits because of the tweets. The tweets always have a link to the website for more information. And July saw a great increase on the AQHI page. So this is amazing. This is awesome. And we'll be able to also produce some tweets to highlight Firework, which is the authoritative source for the smoke plumes in Canada. So we want to highlight that as well and direct people to the authoritative information for Canada. So be on the lookout and look for the hashtag AQHI, hashtag wildfires and smoke. And hopefully you can retweet us as a company, or even as a department or province, or even your personal accounts. So you may want to follow the ECC weather account in your region, and also the Environment CA account in your Twitter if you don't already. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was Clean Air Day, June 8th. Here's some information on it. We're going to have another Facebook Live event as we did last year. Our panel groups will be Armel Castellan, who's a WPM, a warning preparedness meteorologist with MSC. And he was on the ground for the flooding and the fires and the smoke and the extreme heat events in BC. So we will be, our theme this year is climate change and air quality. Katie Hayes is with Health Canada, and she will talk about the mental health and what we can do to improve or manage our mental health during these events. And we're still looking for our air quality expert to join in. Claire Morin moderates the English, and I moderate the French broadcast. So stay tuned. We also have a clean air group, intergovernmental, that we organize these talks so that we can get more information on what is happening with our own government and what our own government is doing. So Armel will be giving us a presentation in April, and Katie in May, to talk about the topics that they will be discussing during the panel discussion. And keep a handle on the Clean Air Day website. Connect to it, because we'll be updating things starting in May. So you'll start to see some changes and some new links, new content for the Clean Air Day with the new theme of air quality and climate change. The theme kind of changes every year, but it's basically what can we do for air quality? And it's usually hosted during Environment Week. So it's usually the Wednesday of Environment Week. So if you keep that in mind, we'd appreciate your retweets as well of our content. So that's about it. I hope I didn't go over my time.